Welcome, everybody. Back to Coffee with Kriolas. Thank you all for coming out.
I'm Dr. Selena. I am my doctorate's in psychology, and I have a private practice in New Bedford. I've been practicing for 30 years. I was only 5 when I started. And my expertise is in trauma, and I work a lot with children, and now I work a lot with all ages. My training's been with children, and now it's grown into the elderly, actually. So, and I've been in New Bedford practicing for 15 years.
So my name is Euclides. I got my bachelor in Portugal anthropology. So and then I got my master's degree in American mental health counselor. So I work with different kind of population, Cape Verdean, Portuguese, Spanish. So I deal with 4 languages. Basically, I have been working in this field for probably 6 years.
And before we also get started, I want to thank especially our special guest today, Miss Ludi Amato. She's the CEO and founder of CWK Kriolas. Just want to thank her personally for lending her time, coming all the way from Connecticut, and being able to open up to us about her personal experiences with depression.
The first question I would like to ask you is, when do you know that you had like the depression issues?
When I first realized that I had depression, I would say I was probably like 20 years old. But as I got to recognize the signs of depression, it's something I had since childhood. I remember being, I would say, 6 years old, and I would experience severe trauma, almost like a panic attack at night. It would be, I would wake up out of bed screaming. And ever since I was a kid, I always felt like something was wrong. I just was always so sad. I even told my doctors that I remember playing with toys and just thinking like, this is pointless. Like, it breaks my heart now just to think that as a child to experience something like that, like just this emptiness inside. And I would say as I got older, probably like when you hit puberty, that's when it started getting more extreme. And after I had my first child, when I was 21, that's when it was unbearable. So I would say like 2021, that's when I just couldn't take it no more, and I had to reach out for help.
Depression is a brain disease, and it starts with some shutdowns, and it starts with a lot of other types of genetics and environmental, and it grows with you until you can catch it. It's curable, of course, but it does grow longer when more so as you get older, and you start to sense the symptoms more persistently. So the fact that you started as a child is interesting, that you realize how the sadness and it's kind of like your core elements were removed. Something all of a sudden, either it clicks because it's genetic, or something environmental, or, we call those screaming at night traumas. And usually children who are traumatized experience night traumas. So sometimes something happens that we don't remember what it is, and it erases our core memories, or we repress them. That's what we call repressing them. And then it comes out through these other symptomologies.
And I can see that there is some reflections, like especially when you go to bed, you start sleeping, and your body is gonna show directly what's going on. Some people, they try to talk by themselves, but they are dreaming. So and I have a client that basically is close to wife, try to punch wife, but it's something that so he or she is able to do it without control. So the best way to fix the problem is approach to a specialist who can help. So individual therapy could be one. Therapist in this case is the one that's going to do an evaluation, take 1 hour. Usually we take 1 hour to come up with the right diagnosis. So could be trauma, could be something else. It's close to depression and anxiety.
I applaud you for having the courage to share your your experience with depression. And my question to you is this: did being a single mom and regular life pressures contribute to your depression?
During the time that I was experiencing severe depression, I was married for half the time. So there was some difficulties being married and also difficulties being single. I think the most difficult part of being a single parent of 4 little kids at the time was obviously with depression, added stress just makes the symptoms even worse. And I owned a business, and at the same time I worked at another salon, and it was too much. It was too much to bear. Like, first of all, you have to get over the part where you have no desire to do anything. Right. And then the stress of life, having to just take care of the family, was a lot. And there was moments that I had to call for help, for someone to come and take my children, because I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to hurt myself, because I recognize the signs, because you're not yourself. You're not yourself during that moment. And I wasn't ashamed to ask for help, because I knew it was something that I could not control. I knew it was something that I needed help with. And I would reach out to friends, family, and they would come in and help me. The only thing is, I noticed friends would help more. Family, it was really tough, especially Cape Verdean community. My family, very old-fashioned Cape Verdean and very religious. So I was afraid to ask them for help, because the first thing that would come out of their mouth was, "You need Jesus. You're not saved." And it was hard for me, especially I grew up in the church since I was 9 years old. My parents, my mom and my stepfather, were both pastors. So when you're 11, 12, experiencing severe panic attacks, trauma, and then having someone tell you that you have an evil spirit in your life, causes you to feel more trauma, afraid. And as an adult, trying to take away those things that were embedded in your mind and try to take them out of your head. So it's like right now I'm still in that transition where I'm trying to let go of that belief, because there's a part of me that still believes that way. So it's definitely hard. It's definitely hard to be a single parent, but then it's hard again being married, especially if your spouse doesn't understand your illness. And they judge you, and they think you're lazy, they think you're crazy. So it's really hard, because the problem is nobody talks about it. That's why I was like, when I beat this beast, I'm gonna be someone to talk about it, because there's people who suffer in silence.
I'm hearing a few things going on here. First of all, let me just say, I know you, and I know I'm gonna cry. And I know how energetic you are. I know how creative you are, and I know how good you are at what you do. So I would have never imagined, when I knew you during that period of time, that you were suffering, because you really were a great mask. And you did have those 3 little babies, or at least 2 of them, yeah. And they were there with you, and you were caring for them like a great mom, and doing your thing, and making everyone happy around you. So I hear a couple of things. I hear trauma, and I think that there's something that you probably, I don't know if you remember it or don't remember it, and I think that, I don't know, there's a history of depression in your family, so it's genetic. So you're predisposed to a lot of variables that can bring you to where you were. There are different types of therapies that are available. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. I use that a lot, and it's really looking at what you need more than what you say. It's not looking at your words. It's really looking at your behavioral patterns. So what we do is we look at your behavioral patterns and we say, I wonder why she does that. Okay. But it's not what you say. It's not like, I really feel this way, that way. But I'm reading something else. I'm looking at, why do you feel that way? Why do you say that? What's the impression? What's the pattern to that? And then our job is to reverse that pattern behaviorally. And that really works for depression a lot. It works well. Then there are other types of things. There's EEG neurofeedback, which is a very expensive treatment, but it works with your brain, because depression's in the brain, and it functions within you know, your executive functioning system, which kind of gets you to shut down. So I'm writing a book right now. I'm not sure the name of it, but I'm almost done with it, and I'll get a name soon. But right now it's like stop, block, and flatline, because that's what we do. We block ourselves from information, remember it, or we put it somewhere, and then we stop ourselves because it's like, okay, can't handle it, can't go there, and then we flatline. And that's the depression. That's when we just stop. So there's the neurofeedback will help you. It trains the brain with, it doesn't put any information in or take anything out, but it trains your brain waves so your brain begins to understand your functioning, how you function. And there's EMDR. EMDR is we do it with 2 fingers back and forth, and it's really good for trauma. It works really, really well for trauma. So you got a lot of options besides medications.
Okay, so I have a question for you. What ways or healing processes do you do to help combat the everyday struggle of depression?
That's hard to say, just because I've been doing this suffering for 12 years. And I would say there's moments of highs and lows. And I would say right now, I finally, after 12 years, I'm finally off my medication. It took me about 3 months to wean off of it because the medicine was so strong. I was on the highest dosage. I would say 2 years ago, I was taking close to 20 pills a day just to get out of bed and function. And I said, when I turn 30, I am going to get off these meds because I'm too young to be on it. And not only that, they weren't helping. I felt like they were helping for a moment, and then over time, they wear off. And then you play the medicine game, and you try to find something that works for you. And it's a process because it takes time for it to work. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for something to kick in, and then you have to go back and say, this works, this doesn't, maybe switch again. But I made it a point to get off of it, and it took me 2 years to wean off of 20 pills and just kind of cut down. I did have to check into a crisis center twice because I've gotten to a place where I was just so low and I needed to go somewhere where I needed help. So now that I'm off of the medication, I would say the best way I can cope, through therapy, I learned a lot about mindfulness and living in the moment. I read a lot of books about like A New Earth, living in the now, and those have helped me so much. And I think it's a combination of everything. Eating healthy is huge for me. I noticed when I changed my diet, I started feeling a lot better. Exercising. So I just made it a point to do a little bit of everything. I'm still not there yet. I still wake up some days and I just don't know how I'm gonna do it. But I just tell myself, give myself an hour, so I'll get better. So I think that's how I get through my day, is just kind of just being positive and telling myself, I'm gonna get through this.
Clearly, the medication regime it's intense. Sometimes it makes you worse than better. And it truly, you become a medicine cabinet, because now they're going to try all these different medications with you. Then they put you on SSRIs, which you can't stop taking. You can't just say, I'm going to stop this today and I'm done with it. No, you have to be weaned off of it. But meanwhile, they're compounding you with more medications to try to get you to sleep and try to get you and they're not working. So medication is important. I'm not saying that it isn't, because it is important for many people, especially folks who have bipolar. It's a very serious illness, and thank God that's not what we're talking about here. However, mindfulness. My book's about mindfulness. It's about looking inside and creating different videos, different looks, different scenarios. And that's really good that you're doing that. Clearly looking inside and facing your demon. You have to pull that demon out. You have to pull that demon out and throw it away. And you have to do it one by one. You can't do them all at once. And sometimes a demon is just remembering. In my book, I tell my story. In my story, I had demons too. And in my story, sometimes the demons come from very minor things. Saw mom slap dad one day, And that's like, took you right off the edge, like, wow, my father shouldn't, what? And people don't understand that. And then it grows because it compounds and it gets more and more. And before you know it, we're consumed, and we're living as a victim, or we're living as, you know, somebody we don't know half the time. Or we have this mask that people see and it smiles and it's pretty. And behind that mask is a lot of darkness.
Sometimes medication works, sometimes not. Our body is different. Like sometimes we can connect with the medication works, sometimes not. So that's why she's gonna give us at least 3 weeks to see if medication works. If medication does work, so you gotta report right away. You're gonna stop these medications and take another one. So as I said, therapy works because you have another therapist that's close to you is going to try to manage the symptom to see if it works or not. So in general, therapy is really good because you can see that you're going to open your mind. You're going to discuss your feelings. And in my opinion, like therapy works as a car that you're going to tune up. So when you do a tune-up on a specific car, it's going to run well. So if you don't do it, like the car is going to have some problem. So as I said, it's good to take medication. So at the same time, it's good to be in therapy in order to address the issue.
What finally triggered the depression low that you needed to get on medication?
Like I said before, I always felt like I suffered with sadness, but if this is something you've gone through your whole life, you don't know what happy is. So you don't know. I never knew what happy was, honestly. So it's hard to trigger something that you just don't understand. But what made me reach out for help was I've always had panic attacks at night, and it would happen sparingly. As I got older, it became so intense that I remember when 7 p.m. used to hit, I used to freak out because I knew it would happen again. And it happened for probably a whole year that I would wake up out of the night screaming from despair. It lasted probably about 30 seconds. I couldn't even describe what I was feeling. I couldn't describe it to anybody. I didn't know this is something you can talk to a doctor about. I remember, this is gonna sound funny, but I was watching Oprah, and they had an episode of panic attacks. And everything that they were saying was something I was experiencing. And they said, go to your doctor and tell your doctor you're experiencing this. And me growing up in the church, I always thought it was something you have to pray away. I didn't know that it was something you can talk to somebody about. I really thought like I was the only person in the world that was experiencing this. And I was embarrassed to even talk to my family because I was scared that someone would laugh at me. But that was the first time was when I was probably 21 years old after I had my daughter. And I went and I talked to my doctor. She put me on medication. And I would say that first week, I was just like, I didn't even realize like this was life. Like I felt joy, I felt happiness. I felt something that was completely different than I experienced my whole life. Right away, I would say that first night, I did not even have one panic attack. And it was crazy to me because I always thought that this was something that I was groomed to believe that this was an evil spirit that was in my life. And I had to pray it away, and I couldn't live in sin. I had to do everything right. So that's how I lived my life. And then all of a sudden, one day, I took something that a doctor gave me, and it changed my life. I'm not saying medication is everything. To me, I feel like it's a Band-Aid to help you get to where you need to go.
In my opinion, certain medication that you may take for anxiety and panic attack, you may be dependent. So it's research that they did recently can prove that when you are in a specific medication for anxiety, you are not supposed to take it for a long period of time. That's why they want to cut, they want to decrease the dose just to avoid being dependent. So panic attack happen like if you have a good therapist, the therapist can help you to identify triggers, what causes your panic attack. So what is panic attack? Basically, is a lack of oxygen that you don't have in your brain. That's why you're gonna shut down. And the symptoms look like that you're gonna pass away. Is it true or not? Yeah, you look like that you're gonna pass away. You're gonna lose hope. So, but there is something simple that you can do to try to fix it right away. One is doing a deep breath. So if you do a deep breath several times, so you're gonna add the oxygen in your brain. So then you're gonna be more strong. Another thing that you can do, take a cup of water. So try to search fresh air. So that's gonna help. If you are in a space that is kind of too hot, like you may gonna have more panic attack. Like so you are in a specific bus that is kind of full, you may have more chance to have panic attack. But the good news that is panic attack is not gonna kill nobody. We're gonna have some symptoms that's gonna like put you down, like you don't have, like you don't know how to control it. And some panic attack comes automatically. So, but like if you have a good therapist, the therapist can identify triggers. So there is something that may increase your panic attack. So if the therapist got it right away, you're gonna work on triggers. So as soon as you work on triggers, your panic attack is gonna go away. You know how to manage it.
To add to that is sometimes fluorescent lighting, very strong lighting, can cause panic attacks. The other thing I think also causes panic attacks is you're waiting for it to come. And you present it. You say, okay, it's coming. Yep, 7 o'clock, I'm going to have it, and here it comes, because you're so scared that you know that's what your mind is conditioned. So that's why behaviorally, like CBT, can help change that pattern, as he's saying, of thinking. And all those things, yoga and meditation and all those mindful things are great for that. But I want to address the cultural part of this, because we are not immune to mental health because we're of a different culture. We're not immune to it. And I think that our families need to understand that, I think even in Cape Verdean, I'm Cape Verdean, so I can only speak for Cape Verdean family. I'll have my passport soon, so I'll be a real Cape Verdean. But I think you have to know that we can't belittle or put down or use curses. I mean, it's always a curse. It's always a curse. Somebody's cursed the family, somebody's cursed. Whatever it is, we have to deal with it. It is what it is. And so we have to look at it and see it as a deficit, something that you need help on, something that you're in pain with, whether it came from somebody preying on you the wrong way, or it came from genetics, or it came from your environment, or it came from bad experiences, whatever it is. We have to reach out to our we tend to yell a lot and make sure the house is clean and the food's on the table, but we have to make sure that our soul is healed. We have to make sure that the soul is good, because everyone in this room has got something good inside of them. And, you know, I was raped at 16, so that brought about a whole history of things for me that followed. But when I found what my goodness was and then put that together with my badness, I became an expert in child sexual abuse. Okay? So remember, everything happens for a reason. You have to put it together, and you have to make it good. And we have to be supportive of that.
What message would you have for those women dealing with depression on their own, either in Cape Verde now, or those who are in our cities that are young and don't have the mental or, just like the guidance to get through certain things?
I look forward to I still go to therapy. I go once a week. I feel like it's something that helps me, so I think that's the number one. I really feel like if I went to therapy, I would have never went down the medicine road, which was really hard for me to get out of. Like, it helped for a moment, but once that medicine wears off and you're left with side effects, it causes a lot more problems, and you can start adding more things to it. So I am all about therapy, but together with therapy, eating healthy, exercising, being positive. I think being positive is what changed my whole outlook, and it helped me a lot.
Okay, so what you said about nutrition is crazy true, if I can say it like that. You know, even children who are ADHD, so many things that we're diagnosed with is affected by the food we eat, the colorations, the poor nutrition, the fats. So we really have to become more keen on what we're putting into our body. So what we put in is what we get out, right? So, and I'm a victim of that. So, but we have to be more alert to what we're putting into our body. And clearly, we have to be mindful of being positive, because that's also what we're training our brain. So we keep on putting negatives in, then we get negatives out, right? So we have to, and you have to, who's your biggest healer besides God? Who's your biggest healer? Yourself. Yourself. If you can't depend upon yourself when everybody else is telling you all these awful things, or why do you act like that? Why are you moody today? Oh, don't call her tonight. We're not going out with her tonight because she's going to want to go home early. People don't understand. We have to be supportive of one another. I think that we need to learn how to reach out to each other for anything. For anything. If you know that I'm your friend and I know that something's happening, and rather than being busy with my schedule, reach out. What you give out is what you get back. Okay, so you have to open those doors to being receiving and giving.
So many Cape Verdean, even though they are struggling with depression, so they don't search for help, because if they go to a specific clinic, they may think that somebody's going to point their finger on them. So I'm not crazy, so that's why I'm not going to go. That's a big issue. So, and I believe that it's easy to understand if the person is depressed or not. As I said, the person usually, you can see low self-esteem, low energy, no motivation. The person that try to stay alone, they don't want to talk to nobody. It's a signal of depression. If somebody saw any family member or any friend with those kind of symptoms, it's good to search for help. Number one. So if the person thinks that he's able to deal with the symptoms, that's fine. So he may or she may know some coping skills, like try to do not stay home by yourself. Try to distract yourself. Listen the best music. Try to talk to somebody. So that's number one. If the person thinks that he's still depressed, it's good to get an evaluation. Try to search for a professional mental health that can help.
Listen to what he just said. He gave you all of those red flags. Because remember one thing, depression comes along with suicide. Okay, don't forget that. Because it's in our brain. It's a chemistry in our brain that is turned off. And sometimes we need you there just to turn it back on for us. But remember, depression does come with suicide, sometimes homicide. And when our body says, this is different, this is not me, you have to seek out help. Even if it's just because it could be a medical thing, that's the other thing. We have to also always rule out medical. I always rule out medical before I make a mental health diagnosis. And sometimes vice versa, because all of the things you're talking about are just put stress on your organs, which cause medical conditions or enhances it. Cancer loves stress. So definitely seek help.
I definitely went through depression, and hearing your story just brings it all back. I'm thankful that I didn't go through it when I had my first daughter, but after a few years, I did experience depression, and it was the most. It's the saddest. It's not knowing what it was, going through it with family that didn't know, friends that didn't know, going to church. You mentioned going to church, having your pastor not knowing, not the help. I went through all the panic attacks, the anxiety, all the medications. It was a lot. I mean, I cannot tell you how many medications I went through to be able to come out of it. Suicidal thoughts, crazy. I almost was there, almost committed suicide. But till this day, I don't know how I got out of it. I would say one of it was getting out of medication. Trying to get off it was the hardest thing as well. And finally, finding friends, even though family tries to bring you other places to seek help, if you know what I mean. Yes, they did. I mean, I didn't say anything. I didn't say no. I said, okay, at this point, I wanna try anything. If there is something that's gonna help me, I'm gonna go for it. I don't want these thoughts. I don't want these dreams, these horrible dreams. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be afraid when I have to go somewhere by myself. I want to be able to do that. So I wasn't even able to do that. So it was hard. It was really hard. But like I said, through friends that helped me, kind of got me out of the house. Exercising, eating right, because there was no eating, no exercising. It was just me kind of like, solitaire, like being alone in the dark and not knowing what to do. So it's horrible, and I feel you.
Well, I've never said this out loud. I was actually diagnosed with depression in 2010 after my divorce. I lived alone in its one-bedroom apartment, and I just remember just sitting on the couch, just there. But I thank God for my sister, my older sister, and my mom. Wow, I can't. And just this conversation is just bringing back so many memories. But I did have my mom. I'm very close to my mom, very close to my older sister, and that's when I started therapy. And I'm still doing therapy. Wow.
That's good. And also, I want to touch too, Ludi, because I want to get into just the male participation in postpartum depression as well. Like, how was the support system for you in general?
It's hard to say because I know my husband at the time, he did not understand it. He just thought like I was losing my mind. And it was hard because there was times that he did not know what to do, and he tried to help, but there was times that he added to the problem and would leave me alone with the kids and just go out and go to parties and not come home. And I was just left with 4 kids at the time, 4 little babies, and it was hard. It was really hard, but one of the biggest problems for me when I was depressed is having other people understand, because depression is something you have to experience to know the pain. Just like I always would say this, like when people would ask me like, what do you mean you're sad? What do you mean you're depressed? I'm like, imagine breaking your leg and having to walk on that leg, that pain. It's not a physical pain, it's an emotional pain. To me, that's how I felt at times. I remember going to work and feeling that pain, because there's levels of depression. There's depression that's unbearable, and then there's depression that it sucks and it's uncomfortable, but you can get through it. So I would say the hardest part was, especially in the Cape Verdean community, because I feel like a lot of Cape Verdeans do suffer from depression, but they suffer from different levels of depression. So when you tell them they're depressed, everyone's depressed. I'm depressed too. So it's hard to get that support. It's hard to get that love or help from someone who really brushes off what you're feeling. And I know that for me, that was the hardest thing, especially in my family, because my family, everyone in my family is depressed. My uncle, unfortunately, committed suicide. So we grew up with this thing of knowing everyone's depressed. You just have to deal with it, and you just have to get over it. So I would say if you're someone that doesn't understand depression and someone's going through it, really be there above and beyond. Because someone who's screaming for help, I know at my lowest points, I couldn't even call, I didn't even have the energy to call someone. There was times I just wanted to just end it. I wouldn't say kill myself. I never got to that point. I just wanted to numb out, pass out, sleep, take a bunch of meds, and just because the pain of being awake was just so unbearable. So I think it's important especially in the Cape Verdean community, to reach out and really help somebody who's going through this, and recognizing the signs, because some people don't ask for help.
Because our families came from Cape Verde, and many of you did too, and what did they learn? It was learned there. And guess what? I go to Cape Verde frequently, and it still lives there unlearned why it exists. So it continues to be a story untold in Cape Verde. My dream, and I've been working on, Vanilla knows I've been working on this project, is to create virtual clinics, mental health clinics in Cape Verde, because they really need the help. They really, and I just want to say to you, Diva, I'm going to cry again. Gotta catch my breath. Congratulations. Because there's nothing better. You see how I just spit out getting raped at 16? Because it means nothing to me now. Congratulations for getting that out. Because that's the beginning of your healing.
I would say that, you know, for men, we need to definitely do more to support our women when they're going through that. You know, just like when it's that time of the month and they're on their period, and we know that we have to walk on eggshells, you know, around the house to, you know, deal with that time. I think that we should also, you know, just try more to help them, you know, after childbirth and getting through things, instead of just letting them deal with it on their own. So that would be my only input on that, personally.
Many Cape Verdeans, they don't understand exactly symptoms of depression or other kind of mental health. So the first thing that comes to their mind, or our mind, because I'm Cape Verdean, I have the same culture but different understanding, because I got my master in mental health, so it helped me to guide. I run groups of Cape Verdean. So my goal is just try to open their mind to be more open to service of mental health. So the first thing that comes to their mind is basically somebody did something against me. I have to go to Jabakozu, Mestre, or Voodoo. That's the first thing. That's the first thing that comes to their mind. Like the second one, yeah. So instead of invest on the right service, they may pay too much money, like on those things they're not gonna get any help. So it's very difficult to see one person, one Cape Verdean, especially first generation, maybe second or third generation, they are more open to the service. Those that came from Cape Verde, they're gonna do the same thing. Like, and then you can see the group of family. They're gonna try to take them to those places to try to solve the problem, but they're gonna invest a lot of money, but they're not gonna see anything. Another thing that they can see, many of them, they're gonna take them to pastor or to priest. So as I said, they have different background, so they can help a little bit, but they're not gonna do the job that the therapist is gonna do, or like, that's why it's kind of difficult. So I have clients who went to pastor, they tell me the same thing, like, I spent time but didn't work. I believe that therapy is much better. So I think we have to open our mind to try to understand what's going on, and after that search to the right service.
Men don't have the typical depressive symptoms or moods, but they turn to other things, other devices, and that's how they take care of their depression. Alcohol, that S word that ends with X, 3 letters. Drugs, you know, overworking. So they have other ways, because they don't have the emotional containment that we have. When a man is feeling financial difficulties and can't support his family and it's bringing him down, and he finds himself at the bar more often, okay, why is that change? Let's deal with that. Let's talk about that. Let's get to that. You know, so whatever the change is, you're not going to talk about it because you want to fix it. We want to talk about it. You want to fix it. So it's a matter of knowing when you start feeling that the fault in you to figure out why is this a fault here? What's happening here? Because if you had a headache for a week, you'd eventually go to the doctors, right? Exactly. So you have to take as a toothache or a headache and say, I don't get this all the time. What's up with this? Why am I feeling this way? And deal with it. And bring it up.
Anybody in the audience have any
Anybody has any questions?
Experiences that they want to share?
Success story about schizophrenia. I have a son who was diagnosed at age 15 with schizoaffective disorder. Not really knowing what that was, how to manage it. A single mom of 3. I can, with all the humbleness of my heart, say that this young man is a graduate of college. He has found a way in life to overcome his illness. He's very medical, from a medical standpoint, he's very compliant, which a lot of times people get off the medicine because they think they're fine. It's almost like the mind tricks you to believe that you don't need it. But he is very compliant. He has a life of his own. He lives very independently. And I know that that is typically not the story for many people that suffer from that illness, but it is support. We talk every day. He has everyone that loves him and supports him and tells him he can do it. And I think part of the reason why he feels so compelled to take really good care of himself is because he knows we're all dependent on him to do that. So again, the support is so much more sometimes the medicine than the medicine. Yes. So I just wanted to share that story with you.
Schizophrenic, we can diagnose schizophrenia, at least men usually appear after the 18-year-old. So on female, probably 30, 32, you can see it. But it's something is not easy to fix. The good way to try to fix the problem is search for therapy. Works. I believe that medication works. So it's good to be on medication because any person who was diagnosed with schizophrenic, they have different kind of symptoms. Like some of them, they see things, they hear voice. It's a voice that's gonna bother them a lot. In certain moment, they can go wherever they want to go, but they don't have no clue what they are doing. So they're going to be kind of blind, so especially when they are in crisis. So again, the best way to fix the problem is being on medication. Some of them, if you're going to try to stop medication, they're going to be in crisis, and they have to go back to the hospital. As I said again, it's a tough diagnosis. It's depression plus something else.
I totally agree. Schizophrenia is a lifelong journey. It doesn't turn around. It doesn't pick itself up. It doesn't let itself out. It lives inside of you, and it needs medication. It needs intensive services. It needs an incredible support system, and it's a very debilitating, very sad disease. And it is genetic. It travels through families.
We're going to wrap it up for today because time is limited, unfortunately, but I thank you all for coming out. Let's give a round of applause again for Ludi Amato, Dr. Selena, and Yusildi Jubao, and also our Kriolas, Maria, Nasilda, Sandra, and Diva. Okay? Thank you all for coming. God bless. We'll see you at the next Coffee with Kriolas.